Hello again, it's Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. We are so glad that you have joined us. Steve Post, pit reporter for the Motor Racing Network. Hey, before we get into the show, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do to spread the Crew Call gospel, and we would be grateful for that. We have a blast here taking you into the garage area, and we would love to share that with everybody in the NASCAR industry. As I mentioned, I'm Steve Post with Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief, Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm good. Coming off of an interesting weekend in the middle of the country in Iowa, corn country. What a great event that was.
You correct me. We talked before this about we're going to talk about the race, and then you say interesting weekend. I don't know that I've ever had a more fascinating Saturday, and then I'm not sure I've had many more fascinating Sundays. Interesting weekend certainly wraps it up, Todd.
I mean, we can go back to Friday night too. I thought, Brent Cruz and Butterbean Queen, you didn't know, pretty good race between the two of them. Whoever got out front got in a good position, but and then Saturday was a great show. But Sunday, the outcomes of Sunday. I'm sorry. Rudy Fugle, when he made his last pit stop, was not planning on that being his last pit stop. He adapted once he got the cautions beyond that.
Yeah, I just happened to hit the scanner right over to him, and it was funny because the number of ifs in this were just fascinating. William, if we get enough cautions and if you can save enough fuel, we may be really close to stretching this to the end. It was all these maybes along the way.
And I can tell you, as sitting on the pit box, I've never stopped just before the end of stage 2 and counted on 9 cautions coming between now and the end of the race. So that got them to the point that they could save and put themselves in position. I would be remiss. I think kudos to them because they ran out of gas at Indianapolis. They ran out of gas, I think, at Michigan might have been earlier this year. Yep. They've had a couple where they thought they were going to be close, and they've been on the losing end. They were on the winning end of this one. And kudos to Rudy Fugle, the whole 24 team. He's given a lot of props back to the engineers, the support back at the shop, looking through the data, getting them, and working with Rudy to get them there. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what I thought was a dominant car of the weekend, was Brad Keselowski in the 6 car.
Man, I'm telling you, that car went to the front, stayed at the front, went to the middle on strategy, came back. They had the one misstep where they didn't get enough fuel in the car, and I think that kind of tripped them up on the sequencing a little bit of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure is that a misstep or is that just being aggressive. They won stage 1, they won stage 2, and I think they pitted a little bit later, which kind of buried them back, but they recovered forward. I thought they had a lot of pace, just didn't have enough. They kind of ran out of it and getting there to third place to finish third. But that's what I expected out of Jeremy Bullins and Brad Keselowski was the show we saw today. And I think I'm curious to see how that plays forward in the remaining 3 regular season races.
I think this gets real interesting with RFK because you can also make a really strong case for Ryan Preece and Derek Finley, how good they were. We're going to Watkins Glen. Of course, Chris Buescher's the defending winner of this race. I think Richmond watching RFK gets real fascinating to see what they can do at that racetrack because Brad specifically is really good at that style.
I wouldn't rule Ryan Preece out of that style either. I mean, as you look at it, and it's kind of a conundrum, I got to believe, for RFK because they're kind of in a battle. If any of their teams have success, it costs the other 2. Right. And what you look at it, Chris Buescher's the last one in. Ryan Preece, the first one out, chasing Chris Buescher for that last spot. Oh, by the way, if Brad Keselowski goes and wins a race, it kicks Chris Buescher out. But I think they're in a spot, they're right there around the cut line. And we'll see where this all plays out. As you talked about, a good place for Chris Buescher coming back to where he beat SVG last year. SVG's in a full-time cup ride this year, not a part-time cup ride. I don't know that he makes mistakes he did last year, but you never know where it plays out. And I think Chris Buescher's a heck of a road racer. I think Ryan Preece has become a decent road racer, and Brad's had a lot of really good runs. If you think back, it was Marcus Ambrose and Brad put on one of the iconic races here in I think it was Bobby Labonte's oil through the racetrack, but he runs this place pretty well. Watkins Glen is different than the other road course races we go to.
Really, truly is, and it's going to be fascinating. I got two real quick attaboys, and then we'll get into it with our guest here. Bubba Wallace, Charles Denike, what a recovery for that team. Sixth place finish. Would have been easy to back up after that win and just step back, but boy, they fought all day long.
2 laps down, got the last 2 free passes of the stack up of cautions. We had gotten all the 1-lap guys off, so started to give them a 2-lap. They got the last 2 to get them back on the lead lap, put tires on that thing, drove forward to a 6th place finish. Great recovery.
Right. Grinding it out. And hey, we're not talking about Marty Lindley and Connor Zilic with the Xfinity Series. How about Sam Mayer and Jason Trincheri getting that win? First win under this iteration of the Haas Factory team. Sam's been good all year long. He's way, way up in the point standings, but you got to be happy to get that win.
Third in points, 16 points out of the lead. Chasing Connor Zilic and Justin Allgaier, who are tied for the points lead in the Xfinity Series. A good quality win for those guys. Connor Zilic was good, had a mishap on pit road, had to come back down pit road to tighten up lug nuts. That lost her track position. That was kind of the kryptonite for Superman this time.
Well, we talked about Trackhouse Racing and SVG going up to Watkins Glen. We're going to talk more about Trackhouse Racing. Phil Surgen is the crew chief for Ross Chastain. He is going to join us next here on Crew Call.
The NASCAR channel is available now on Tubi.
Tell them we got it.
24/7 news, documentaries, with access to the exclusive NASCAR Vault. The NASCAR channel, always on, always free, only on Tubi.
Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Let's go over to Trackhouse Racing. Joining us now is crew chief for Ross Chastain, Phil Surgen. Hello, Phil. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
We are well. Phil, you win the Coca-Cola 600, and then in complete honesty, the summer's been a little bit of a struggle. You had a couple crashes at Dover and Indy. I know I'm starting this off with the bad news, but let's talk a little Iowa, getting an 11th place finish, finishing a race, and maybe getting some positive momentum. Just where are you guys at with that one team as we roll closer and closer to the playoffs?
Yeah, like you alluded to, a little bit of a summer slump for us. A couple of wrecks, a couple of bad circumstances, beating up on a restart here or there, and some poor finishes in the last 5 or 6 weeks. But Iowa was a good step forward for us. 11th is certainly not what we want, but it's a solid average day. Particularly for starting poorly, coming home 11th on that was all right.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the things that I think has put you in a situation. You've had some qualifying challenges. And it just, when you look at it, your race pace is really good. I think back to the Charlotte piece, you backup car and drove all the way just drove your way to the front. Great pace there. I think you guys have talked a little bit about, I think I've heard Ross make the comments, we got to qualify better. How do you work on that? I mean, there's really not there's not a qualifying practice. You can go out and do a bunch of single car runs. How do you make that improvement?
Yeah. And, the other thing is, going from race trim to qualifying trim, we don't really have all that many adjustments at our disposal anymore. We don't have grill tape that adds, 50 counts of downforce or anything. So really for me, it's unloading Saturday better, unloading for practice better, being better balanced in practice is going to lead to better qualifyings. This weekend was kind of an anomaly where we felt like we were decent in practice and we didn't qualify well. We misjudged and we hit the ground too hard this week. But there has been other weeks where race pace hasn't been great, makes it difficult to make the right qualifying adjustments. But yeah, I think it really starts with the unload setup and the unload balance just being that much closer.
Talk about how, this weekend at Iowa, unique circumstances, just how rough it is down into turn one. And that almost exaggerates how razor edge traveling a little bit too far can be, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Iowa's one of the more difficult places in terms of, compromises on travel. The old asphalt is super rough, really low grip. And then you hit that new asphalt in the corner. And although it's a much lighter color, it still has a lot more grip than the old asphalt. And it's smooth. So you have almost like two entirely different racing surfaces. And, most of the challenges from the majority of the teams are the entry, the bumps, being secure enough on entry to make enough shape to get through the middle faster. And and that's what, in race pace, we were in race trim on Friday. What was it? Saturday. We were reasonable. Group A was a bit hard to judge, but then just misjudged, how much margin we had over those bumps and the rear limiters for qualifying, just hit too hard.
Well, I'm telling you, the Saturday practice and qualifying session, you throw in the old asphalt, the new asphalt, you throw in a new tire, less stagger and everything. Phil, what was that like for you? Because I had a couple crew chiefs say, it was really pretty smooth, and I had a couple crew chiefs tell me it was the biggest nightmare practice and qualifying session we've seen, although they had fun at the end of the day. What was that like for you? Because there were so many unique challenges, temperature sensitive as well, because we hadn't ran there multiple times.
Yeah, the new tire was certainly a question mark for us. Mm-hmm. The OEs had the opportunity to do a tire test there, wheel force test there, and we're, we do get some of that information. The wheel force test is run through Chevrolet, so we get all of that information. We felt prepared going into practice, but it still is a pretty big question mark. I mean, it was a big stagger change. Any tire change is, you always question how well you can represent a tire change in simulation and in driver simulators and such. And as it transpired, we were okay. Our unload balance was okay. Like I said, we were in Group 1, and Group 1 often adds an additional challenge. The track is different, particularly at the beginning of Group 1. You saw lap times for Group 1 start slow and continuously pick up pace until about lap 15 or 20. And some of that's just the track changing, which was a much different kind of degradation than what Group 2 had, which, they got their fast lap after 5 or 6 and fell off slowly from there. So trying to judge the difference in track conditions from Group A in practice or Group 1 in practice to race is also an element. And that comes with, with the metric system and crashing at Indy put us in that situation. So, this week going into Watkins Glen, I expect to be in Group A, which will be, or Group B, sorry, and that'll feel a little bit better in terms of being able to get our race balance closer.
Yeah, and one of the things, I'm going to go back for the listeners, but all three of your Trackhouse cars were in Group 1. And stuck there. So you didn't even have a team car that you could look in to see what the data of Group 2 was. What a challenge that has to be for you. You brought up Watkins Glen, and I figured 11th place finish should put you there in Group 2. We saw a different tire. Tons of talk about 4 seconds of lap time degradation and all that last year going into the race. Didn't seem like it was that way. And then now you get 25 minutes of practice. What all can you learn in 25 minutes of practice at a place that takes 70 some seconds to get around?
Yeah. Road courses are the hardest with the impound format. Just the like you said, the length of the lap time, you get so few laps. And if you choose to make a stop for an adjustment, that even further limits your lap count. And in some cases, we can only run, depending on the road course, we can only run 10, maybe 12 laps of practice, which for a driver, and that can't feel good for a driver to only have 12 opportunities to make laps in practice. So more often than not, my preferred practice plan is to run it straight through. Road course, Iowa, with few exceptions, I prefer just to start and run it straight through. It gives the driver the most opportunity to experience the track, but also from a tire standpoint, that heat cycle on tires adds an additional question mark on balance. So you come in, you make an adjustment at Iowa, and you go back out, and you think the tire might have cycled freer, and you now you have to decide whether it was the heat cycle on the tire or the adjustment that either helped or hurt you. So just to eliminate some of that complexity, I'll typically try to run straight through.
When you look at Watkins Glen, it's the super speedway of road courses. We've talked to crew chiefs along the way as how do you build from COTA to this one to that one. What can you build on the road courses going to Watkins Glen, and what can't you rely on going to this high-speed road course?
Yeah, it's got a little different flavor than the other road courses, but a lot of the road course development at Mexico, Sonoma, COTA, apply at Watkins Glen. Now, there's probably, you're probably going to be a little bit stiffer because the aerodynamics are a little bit more important. There's no real slow speed corners. And also, the bus stop offers its own challenges. And, there's only 2 left-hand corners of real significance. So left versus right is also maybe approached a little bit differently at Watkins Glen than it would be at Mexico or COTA.
So your 3 full-time teams, all 3 of you have won road course races, and you're bringing a 4th team with a kid that beat SVG in an Xfinity series at Sonoma. Tons of road course expertise, I would say, amongst your program. Do you prepare together? Do you prepare individually? How do you take this opportunity to kind of come to the racetrack?
Majority of the preparations together. The engineering group at Trackhouse works really closely together on a day-to-day basis, and we all start with the same baseline. And, that doesn't mean that all the teams start perfectly identical at the start of practice, but the majority of what's in the cars is the same. There's some small differences when we unload. But so from a setup standpoint, it's one and the same. And then from a driver standpoint, there's some individual preparation, and then there's a good bit of crossover, particularly with the driver simulator stuff. All the guys, train together and often review film together and SMT and such together.
You alluded to them working together. I've heard pieces where there's almost the teacher and student relationship between SVG and Ross, and it flip-flops depending on the track type they're going to. Talk about that relationship and how that's developed.
Yeah, it's been really great, and it started probably a year and a half ago. Shane did Chicago and one other race in 2023 with us. Obviously proved himself as a solid road course guy. And then when he came into the Trackhouse program in 24, him and Ross particularly started working closely together. Ross is a student of racing, whether it's learning from Shane or anybody else or using any kind of, information as disposal. So he went with the approach, let's go to the simulator with Shane. Let's try to learn some driver technique from Shane. We can help develop our setups together. And then on the flip side, Shane's got really low oval experience. So Ross has helped him get up to speed on some of the ovals, which, obviously offer a ton of uniqueness week to week.
Phil, I want to bring the 3rd driver into this because Daniel has been such a big part of Trackhouse for years and years, but he is in a lame duck situation with the team. As announced, he's not coming back. How does that impact things? Is it business as usual, or are there things that are different with that situation?
Yeah, me personally, I haven't noticed any difference. He still comes to the post-race debriefs, post-practice debriefs, contributes the same. Nobody's treating him any different within the building, whether it's his own team or us. I haven't noticed any difference, inside or outside the walls of the building.
You talked earlier about Ross being a student of the sport, and I think back to I'm 5-6 years removed, but I always like my drivers running the Xfinity race because I felt like there was some correlation that comes forward. Ross is going to jump in a truck when he can. He's going to jump in an Xfinity car when he can. Where do you see that now that the cars are so separate and so different? Is it still beneficial for you?
I believe so. The cars do feel a little bit different. This weekend at Iowa, for instance, he ran the Xfinity car. I think he would tell you that they feel different, they drive different. But at Iowa, I do think that there was some benefit to him in that car. He remembered where the bumps were. He understood the grip on the old asphalt versus the new asphalt. He got to experience those things. Good refresher. And the risk for it being harmful is really small, in my opinion. There's particularly with the schedules the way they are now. Both series are separate. He's got time to debrief. The races are on different days. We're not really involved with the prep of the JRM car or the Nice truck, so it doesn't take anything out of the from the people in the building. So I think laps, particularly at the same track we're going to be racing at, are good.
Laps are good, that is for sure. Phil, we are grateful for the time. We appreciate you carving out a few minutes for us here on this morning. We wish you well at Watkins Glen and on through the playoffs, but thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Phil Surgen joining us from over at Trackhouse Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment.
3, 2, 1, start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi. Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory. The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Crew Call rolling along here from the Motor Racing Network. So glad you are spending your time with us. Todd Gordon and Steve Post here. Todd, when we look at Watkins Glen, this preview presented by Goodyear, what are you looking at when we go to Watkins Glen for the Go Bowling at the Glen?
Strategies, tires, where it all plays out. You look at road course racing. Traditionally, we always talked about road course racing. Run the race backwards. Figure out how far you can go on fuel. From the race finish back up to there, you want to stop there, back up again, you want to stop there. You look at this race, it can be done on 2 stops pretty easily. 220 miles, 2.45 mile racetrack, 90 laps. Stage breaks at 20 and 40. I looked at this a little bit this morning. I feel like if I got to that stage of 22, I can tie the rest of it together from there. I can split it in half and then one stop it from that point. Now, can I do that from 17? Because that's where I'm going to have to stop if I want to flip the stage. I think with cautions coming, if we have 9 of them like we did at Iowa, then you can do it from 17. So I think the crew chiefs are going to have to worry about this. You're going to see guys that are going to be staying on the flipping the stage side and working that through, and then maybe splitting that last one. We saw a lot of lap time degradation. Goodyear brought a tire to try to help the racing last year. Big improvement for what they did to the road course program. How the crew chiefs strategize that. Are they just going to try to run this race backwards and do that 17 or 22, then go to when they're out of gas and then try to finish from there? Or with all the lap time fall off that Goodyear's built into the tires to make the racing better, are we going to see guys go like 17 and then second stage is 40? So do you come at 37 and then plan on splitting that final one with a third stop? So lots of strategies, lots of things that we'll have to see how they unfold on Sunday.
That preview is brought to you by Goodyear. From the track to the street, Goodyear is the official tire of NASCAR. Todd, if we have 9 cautions at Watkins Glen, there might be one stop strategy involved. Oh my God, that'd be crazy. But boy, who knows?
Yes.
It's 2025 NASCAR. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I don't think we will. The good part about Watkins Glen is a lot of the runoff areas are paved. There's very few off of 6 to 7, which I would call 10 to 11. But the last 2 corners, if you haul off too far in there, I think there's a gravel pit out there beyond an asphalt overrun area. A lot of the places are tied up cleaned up with that. There's still some places to go off course, but pretty phenomenal racing they put on up there. I don't expect to see a deluge of cautions.
Love our trips to Watkins Glen. If you notice, Crew Call looks a little different this week. I stayed in Iowa and I'm doing some sprint car racing, and the whole conversation is out here is, are you staying for the Knoxville Nationals? No, I'm not staying for the Knoxville Nationals because I love Knoxville, but I love Watkins Glen. And I just, I literally, MRN offered me, do you want to stay out there and do the Nationals? I'm like, nah, I love Watkins Glen, one of my favorite trips of the year, and it's going to be great up there. And Todd, not only the Cup Series on Sunday, but we've got a busy schedule. Arkham Menards at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. That's the General Tire 100. Truck Series race Friday afternoon at 4:30. Noon Eastern time on Saturday, practice and qualifying for the Cup cars. 2:30 Eastern time, the Mission 200 at the Glen for the Xfinity Series, and our air time on Sunday is 1 o'clock Eastern time. We have got a fourfer up at Watkins Glen. It is going to be a great weekend with ARCA Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what this weekend brings. And Connor Zilich, he's running the truck race, the Xfinity race, the Cup race. He's the guy that beat SVG at Sonoma in the Xfinity race in a similar as Phil just brought it up. He's going in Trackhouse equipment. They're all kind of on the same page. Going to be a great race to see how those two battle each other. But there's so many other players that can come into play here. Watkins Glen is different. It's the super speedway of road course races, and I think really as Chris Buescher showed last year, the oval guys still have a good shot here at Watkins Glen.
And overlay the playoffs with guys like Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger. We have got the recipe for wild on Sunday afternoon. We really do.
Yeah. And the list goes on and on. I could bring 3 more. So tune in, listen to us. It's going to be a great show.
That sounds great. He is Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. We appreciate Phil Surgen joining us from Trackhouse Racing. More important, though, than all of that, thank you for joining us this time here on Crew Call on the Motor Racing Network.